Hey everyone, welcome to From The Hangar podcast. I'm your host, Lem Malabuyo, and I have here sitting with me Nathan and Becky Fagerlie, and they will tell their story. But I just wanted to say that we are sitting underneath a caravan, which is pretty cool, like literally underneath the wing of it, which is awesome. And then I realized now that, Nathan, did you ever even fly a caravan?
No, for my whole time over in Indonesia, I only flew the Kodiak. I never actually got into a caravan other than as a passenger.
Well, this is what the hangar looked like when we walked in, and we were like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't ask. It's pretty full right now. It's packed with a lot of airplanes. So
it's still a pretty airplane, and it does a lot of great things for us.
But you also do fly caravans in the Indonesia programs.
Absolutely,
okay,
absolutely.
Cool. Sweet.
So
just not you specifically.
Not me specifically.
Cool.
No.
I'm so glad that we chose the wrong airplane for you guys.
It's quite all right. Still got the red, white, and blue, so it works.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm jumping the gun with your story and everything like that, but thanks for coming on, guys.
Pleasure.
This is really cool, and it's fun to see you here stateside too, because our families have hung out from time to time.
Exactly.
It's been really cool.
You've been to our house in Wamena. We've been to your house here.
Absolutely,
it's been great.
It's been really fun. So, why don't you guys introduce yourselves and kind of just tell us where you've served and how long you've served with MAF?
Go ahead.
We are Nathan and Becky Fagerlie. We've been with MAF for 17 years. 16 of those years were in Indonesia, Papua, Indonesia.
Oh, what were the other first 6 years?
No, 16 years.
16.
So only 1 year. One year we were raising
my
support.
bad.
Yeah, we had to do all our training and support raising. That took up the first year. And then after that, we've been there.
I was like, oh man, do I not know about a previous assignment before you guys went to Indonesia?
No, we've only been on one island now, just one place.
That's cool. And then, so you guys mentioned Wamena, right?
Yes.
Like, real quick, like what's the relation between Sentani and Wamena and that Papua program?
Yeah, so in Papua, we have 5 different bases that we operate out of.
Yeah.
Sentani's kind of our main base where we do most of our maintenance. We have our operations center there. And then that's right on the coast, where Wamena is sitting in the middle of the island up in the mountains. Okay. So instead of being right on the coastline, we're up at 5,000 feet in a beautiful valley surrounded by mountains. The temperature is 60 degrees to 80 degrees year round. It's absolutely gorgeous.
That is actually really nice.
It's close to paradise as you'll get on the side of heaven. So
it was a little bit of a respite when I went there the first time to Sentani, and then we had to spend a few days in Wamena, and I'm like, oh, this feels good.
No, we didn't need air conditioning.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
You guys have a fireplace.
I know. Occasionally when it was raining, it would be cold enough where it was nice to have.
You
didn't need
wild.
But the fact that you could do it without sweating, it was a luxury for us.
Place to hang your stockings at Christmas too.
That's cool. Yeah, I think that was the first time I ever walked into a home in a Southeast Asian house and there was a fireplace.
It's probably the only ones in Southeast Asia. I don't know if that's true.
But it was really fun. So
it was nice.
Well, I mean, I wanted to so that's great, and I wanted to backtrack. Yeah. Like, how did you guys get even into overseas missions? Like, what was that like for you guys growing up?
I grew up in a very mission-minded church, but I myself never thought I was going to be a missionary. It sounded really scary to me, to be honest, because I don't know. I liked my little white picket fence suburb that I grew up in. And after I finished school, I went to Moody Bible Institute. So again, very strong mission orientation. Yeah. But after I finished Moody, I ended up going overseas for a short time. I went to the UK for about 8 months. And I did children's ministry there. But most important of what came out of that time there was God showing me that missions wasn't as scary as I imagined. He's still there. He's still present in those other parts of the world. And so no matter where I was in the world, even if it was a scary place, God would be present with me. And so at that point in time, I told God, if you want me to be a missionary, I'll be a missionary. And so that was my first step, I guess, toward that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for me, my grandparents were actually missionaries in the Caribbean back in the 50s and 60s. And so my dad grew up as a missionary kid. And he brought the love of missions when he moved to the States as an adult. And we had missionaries coming through our house all the time. Aviation side comes from my dad as well. When I remember as a little boy, my dad loved to hang glide, so he would strap on a wing and then run off the side of a cliff. And as a 4-year-old, that was impressionable on me. Man, that's kind of cool. And so I grew up loving aviation as well. And when I was 17, we had a missionary pilot come through our church. And it was then that I realized that I could take a profession I love, like aviation, and use it to serve God, who I love.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to be a perfect fit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you discovered that pretty young, because it sounds like for many people don't realize, like, oh, I can do both of these things.
You can do both of them. You don't have to sacrifice your passions.
Yeah.
You can use them for God's kingdom and
Yeah.
not just have to set them aside.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. That's awesome. And so then I'm guessing that you went to Moody as well then.
Well, yeah, at the time, I asked people, like, where should I go to get training? And they said, if you're serious, Moody Bible Institute's the place to go. So I said, okay, let's go there. And that's where we ended up meeting.
Okay.
Is in Chicago, Illinois.
That's cool. Oh man, for all those MAF staff out there who just heard you say that if you're serious about aviation, you go to Moody.
Yeah,
they didn't go
I know,
to Moody.
Right?
Oh no. Oh man.
But at the time, you're 17, you're impressionable. You don't realize there's a lot of options, and that was just the one. You know, you end up talking to somebody from Moody, and they're going to be like, "Yeah, go there."
Well,
but
sometimes it's like you just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Right? Like, So
right, it did everything I needed to. Got the Bible training, maintenance, flight.
Yeah.
So it did great.
Yeah, awesome. And Becky, so you went to Moody. Did you think you went there because you were thinking of going into missions, or were you still?
No. My whole time through Moody, I thought, well, I came to think that I would do inner city work with kids, because I did that while I was at Moody. I worked with kids who lived like downtown Chicago their whole life, never left the city, never even saw Lake Michigan.
Wow.
And so I thought that's what I was going to do for a long time. When I came home from the UK after that trip, in fact, I applied for a job with a ministry called Inner City Impact, and went down there, hung out with all the kids, and I had a great time. And I came home back to my parents' house and said, I'm not supposed to do that. And I didn't know why, because that was like my direction. I was heading that way. And so my mom said, well, go down there again. And so I did. Went down there again, hung out with the kids, loved it, and came home and said, I'm not supposed to do that. And so I was kind of directionless for a short time. I didn't know what I was doing or why. And so I ended up working at a pottery shop in my little hometown, which was, it was a sweet little job. I liked it.
That's quite the shift.
Yeah, but I still was like, what am I doing?
She didn't major in that at Moody.
So I didn't know what I was doing. And but during that time, he and I had been friends all through Moody, but never dated. But he and I started talking a lot more. And because God had made that shift for me about missions, we could talk about being more than just friends. And so I think that's why God had me say no to this inner city thing, because that was a 2-year commitment. And instead, we started dating and got married within 6 months.
Which is a longer than 2-year commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting. So that was the barrier between the two of you not dating, was you had your sights, Nathan, on going overseas.
The intent was to go to Moody to get a degree to be a missionary pilot, and I wasn't really going to let anything sidetrack me from that. So I met her, and I'm like, she's great, but our lives were not on parallel tracks. And so I made it clear from the beginning, like, hey, this is where I'm going. We can be friends, but I'm not going to be discouraged from this. But when she decided that maybe the Lord's got this for me too, it was like, all right, this will work now. Let's do this.
It's like, yes.
Yeah, I know. Finally. But it was nice because
I think that's really cool to be able to do that, to set boundaries and like how the reality of that is really cool of the both of you.
Well, and it gave us 6 years to build a foundation of friendship, and just, we like being around each other even without a romantic interest. So
and it was something I respected about him from the beginning, because he was very clear about his intentions of what he wanted to do with his life, and because of that, it was very clear that it was only going to be friendship, and that was fine. I was fine with that at the time. And so when it became more, we were just happy.
Wow.
Worked out.
And was MAF always the goal as far as an organization to join? Or?
Well, while I was at Moody, I got to experience a lot of the organizations that do mission aviation. And MAF always kind of stood out to me a little bit. I like the fact that they did a little bit of everything. from like classical, opening up new places, to doing medical stuff, to famine relief, to church planting, translation. They do a little bit of it all. And then I also like the support structure. It's a big organization, and they've got a lot of things that they do for us, whether it's shipping our stuff overseas, taking care of benefits. And I like that aspect of it. But when we got married, I didn't want to force that on her. So I gave her like 3 or 4 options, and I was like, I'm okay with these organizations. Which one of these 4 do you like?
Yeah. So I did research on my own because I had never looked at mission aviation programs before. I had no reason to. And so I looked into those various ones, and I came back and said MAF or Samaritan's Purse. But we ended up deciding on MAF because of the aspect of raising support, which maybe seems counterintuitive, because Samaritan's Purse, you don't raise support, which has its advantages for sure. Especially at the beginning of your time, you spend a lot of time raising support. But I felt like we really wanted that support structure of people behind us who were invested in what we were doing, that would pray for us, and churches backing us. And so that was a big reason too of all of those of why we chose MAF.
That is a really cool point to make, and I don't think I've had someone bring that up, like intentionally choosing to join an organization that you have to raise support over one that you don't. But at that point, to make that, you're building relationships and a network of people who can come around you. Because I think the running joke is that raising support is this daunting, very
it is.
It still is
very like kind of like an embarrassing thing to do a little bit when you first start going. Which I think is really great when you have a whole division in an organization that kind of like coaches you into doing that really well, and to get out of that comfort zone for the bigger goal of raising support so you can be overseas. But that's actually really cool. I don't think I've ever heard someone say it that way. So
that's how we ended up with MA. Those few things kind of swayed us. And
that's awesome. And
haven't regretted the decision yet. So
and then like getting into the support raising, and it was like you guys said, it was hard, but like what was that like leading up to going overseas?
Well, when you first start out, you don't tell your own stories. You have to tell stories from other people who've been there. And so that actually is a little tricky, because you have to make it sound like you know what you're talking about, but you're really relying on second, third-hand information. So we found it easier once we were overseas to come back to be able to share our own and be like, hey, look, this is what I've seen God do, instead of just hear
interesting.
what God did. But at the same time, we found people were quite excited to be a part of ministries like MAF, to send people to the remote places on earth, to bring the gospel to people who've never heard. People get excited about that. And not everybody's called to go over, but if they can participate by, sending their money, they still feel like they're doing something, and they are. It's a valuable and important part to the ministry.
Absolutely.
So it's building that team. And even, with the airplane, we're not solo out there. We work with other organizations and national evangelists and pastors, and it's not as simple as just one missionary going out and doing their thing. It takes quite a big team to make things happen.
Wow.
So it's nice to have people on board. Even when we come back on our home assignments and we're chatting with people at churches, they're like, oh yeah, I've been praying for you, I've been giving, and you just like, I don't know, you really come away encouraged by knowing that people care enough to pray and give.
That's big time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I mean, to be honest, sometimes when, like here in the States, when you hear someone say like, oh yeah, I thought about you the other day and I prayed for you, and it's like, but did you really? Like, and but I think when there is that, like you are intentionally giving, supporting someone financially, like you really do believe that.
And you're much more interested and invested in what's going on. When you do that.
I'm imagining Becky just thinking to herself, like, man, this is really hard. Maybe we should have joined some.
I know. I've made a huge mistake. Yes.
Oh, man.
I don't remember ever thinking that.
Well, it's because you didn't get up front to speak. You forced it on me. I was the one always up front. Like, yeah,
you never had to go up there and kind of like stand next to Nathan and speak
occasionally, yeah. Once this was after we had been overseas and we had our son, and I'm a new mom, and I had just changed a diaper, and I went up on stage and had like poop all over my dress.
Oh yeah,
that was memorable.
Yeah,
memorable.
But no, she does like all the writing for like our newsletters and things like that. She's a much better writer, but I'm the one that has to get up in front and speak and share and tell stories.
Yeah.
So,
well, there you go. It's a team. It's a team.
It works.
Yeah,
it works really well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you guys go overseas.
Mm-hmm.
You're assigned to the Papua program.
Yes.
Did you ever actually spend time in Sentani, or did you guys go straight to Wamena?
Yeah, we actually spend the first year on a different island doing language learning.
Right. Yes.
They got to keep pilots away from the airplane. If we get too close to the airplane, we're going to forget everything else. So they keep us on a separate island. You can just learn the language. And then once you get to Papua, you spend your first few months, sometimes anywhere from 6 months to a year, in Sentani doing training, flight training, maintenance training, that type of thing, getting a feel for the organization, because that's where we're based. That's where we're headquartered. So you're always coming through, bringing airplanes through, working with them, talking to them. So you need to know kind of how things operate in Sentani.
And had you flown Kodiaks before then? Or
no.
Like, what was your history as flying airplanes?
Yeah. So I went through Moody Bible Institute, got my degree, did all the training there. And then when I graduated, I moved back to Arizona, where my family's from, and got a job as a flight instructor at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And I taught for 4 years, doing everything from like private training, taking a person who had never been in an airplane to giving them their license, to doing upset training where we did loops and rolls and teaching people how to recover if the airplane gets in a really unusual situation. So that just kind of helped me expound on some of the skills that I had gotten.
Yeah.
And then I joined MAF without ever being in a Kodiak or a turbine aircraft.
Yeah.
And so it was a bit of a step up to go from a small little Skyhawk to a slightly bigger airplane that moves a whole lot faster and requires a little bit more managing. But it was a fun challenge.
Yeah, I was going to say, sounds like it was probably a lot of fun.
Man, I love the Kodiak. It's a great airplane. It's fun to fly. It sometimes feels like a bit of a truck, sometimes a bit of like sports car. You kind of have to stay on top of it a lot.
Yeah.
But man, I really love flying.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
it's a fun plane. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah. And then like the other question I wanted to ask, because you guys spend a year in language school, like it's not just language that you learn, right? Like they probably immerse you in the culture and getting to know the country and how was that transition for you guys and for you, Becky?
I mean, initially it was super hard. I remember going for a walk with a family who was ahead of us a little bit. They had been there longer, and just saying, I hate it here. Just being on, because it's so different.
Yeah.
There's not really a good way to prepare you for how different it's going to be. And then you can't talk to anybody at the beginning. And so you feel stupid all the time. Like I don't even know how to buy milk. I don't know how to do anything. But she really encouraged me at that point, because she remembered being at that point too, of like, this is just really hard, and just pushing through. And then it gets better. The more you can talk to people, even just being able to ask questions to start getting an understanding of the culture. That's kind of what you learn in language school, is like how to be a culture investigator.
Yeah. That's
So yeah. And then you move to Papua and the culture is different, but now you have the language and the skills to ask, like, why is it different? How is it different here?
Yeah. And did you guys ever, maybe I should rephrase that question. What were some things about the culture that you ended up really appreciating?
It's so community oriented. So community oriented. Everybody helps each other. I think in a lot of ways, America is a cold culture in that everyone is more individualistic.
Sure.
And there, they don't think of themselves as much as an individual. It is a family, a community. And so they work together in helping each other.
Yeah.
And that's
interesting. That's not the first time I've heard someone describe it that way. think Zachary Francois. Have you guys ever met Zachary Francois?
From Haiti.
He's from Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
But he talked about America being like a cold culture, and it's not. It sounds like a negative thing, but no, it's just like there's just a warm culture and then there's a cold culture, and they both have their positives and their negatives.
Yeah.
Because he's like really appreciated a lot of what the U.S. culture is like. As opposed to the Haitian culture. But when you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Like a cold culture and a warm culture.
Yeah.
So, but you were going to say something, Nathan.
Well, I mean, it's just something as simple as like our neighbor would have a medical issue and they need to pay their bill, but couldn't. And so then your community, your neighbors would all just take up a collection and you would help them cool. pay.
Yeah.
But you know, in the U.S., we're a little bit that way now with GoFundMe's and things like that. But it's not like the head of the community coming around door to door,
right? Yeah,
with a hat out saying, "Hey, this person." Yeah. But you're expected to. There's a lot more community obligation.
Yes. Yeah, that's interesting.
And, so it was interesting too when we had medical issues. Like that wasn't our first response either. Is to be like, "Hey, community, can you help?" But they also would want to or be a part of that.
And it made language learning that much easier too because they were willing to sit with us for hours on the front porch,
that's cool.
just like we're stumbling through all our words. And they would very patiently sit there and talk to us. And I have trouble imagining on this side of the world spending hours talking to someone who can't speak English.
Right. It's like, what's this? Right. What's this? What's this?
Yeah. But so that made language learning a lot easier. Yeah.
That's cool. That's actually really neat to hear. I love that. I love that, guys.
Yeah.
What were and so as you guys spent time in Sentani, then you transitioned out to Wamena. Like what was life like for you guys? Like ministry, family life, doing the day-to-day stuff. Like, just tell me what life was like for you guys.
We actually initially moved to Nabire. We were in Nabire first. Yeah.
We spent our first 2 terms about 7 8 years in Nabire, and then the last 7 in Wamena.
Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. So
I mean, my research better.
We're in Papua. Just say Papua.
Yeah.
We're good there. It covers the whole thing.
Most people don't know where any of these are, so it's fine. Nabire, it was beautiful because it's on the coast. Like the airport ends at the ocean, and so
that's super cool.
It's so gorgeous. And but a lot of it was just like learning the ropes, really. Like, what is it to live here? What is our daily schedule? What are we going to be involved with as a family? So the first several years were just figuring all that out. Like, what are we going to be about?
The hardest thing is saying no.
Yeah.
Because there's so much need. There's so many things you can be a part of to be able to prioritize what is the most important, like saying no so that I can say yes type of thing,
Yeah.
But most of my day was you'd wake up before the sun, go out, get the airplane ready, and then be flying in the morning and into a little bit into the afternoon, trying to get done before the thunderstorms would raise up and come and close us off. And then getting the plane ready for the next day and doing a lot of flying, a lot of helping out with the airplane. Okay. That was a big thing for me on my side. And for Becky, it was being a homemaker. And everything over there is just a little bit more time consuming or a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. Well, he was like meeting all these people, right? Who lived at different villages. So he'd come home and talk about his new friends. And I didn't know who any of these people were. So one day I was like, I'm going to email them all. They're all like Western missionaries. So I found all their email addresses and I said, hey, like all the wives, I emailed the wives and said, I'm Becky. I'm his wife. I just want I'd love to know about who you are, what you're doing. And so I started getting to know those women just over email initially. And then over time, we started going, I would go in to meet them in person and see their home. And
we'd spend like a weekend there. Part of it was to get the family. I could see the ministry and understand the vision of MAF and what we were doing. But sometimes it was harder for Becky and then for our kids when they're just back in the house. It just seems like life keeps going.
Yeah.
So to be able to bring them in where they could speak with the missionaries or the evangelists or be able to see a village and be a part of what's happening over the weekend or their daily lives. It made a difference in how she saw MAF and her part in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really great to give your family.
Yeah. It's my son's favorite part. That's like one of the things he misses the most. We did our last flight last year, right before we were finishing up, I took my son in, and he was like, "Dad, can we just stay here? Do we have to go back?" And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, son, we can't just stop in the middle and leave it." But he loves being in those villages.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And cool. That's great. That's, Did you guys ever get hands-on in a specific type of ministry that was outside of aviation?
Years later, I became involved in a ministry that involved baskets, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And so we found there were local people making baskets, and we basically helped them sell them. But it became more involved in their lives than just beyond baskets. We helped them with their medical needs, and we're able to get solar Bibles in their language, especially for those who couldn't read. They could at least listen to the Word of God. And so that was the last maybe 5 years, something I was involved in.
That's cool. So you were like helping them with a business to like sustain them and all that.
Yeah. So we would sell, because they didn't have a large context to sell baskets. And so with our larger community that we are aware of, especially the expat community, we were able to sell the baskets, and whatever we sold them for, so say we sold a basket for $10, all $10 went back to the basket maker.
Yeah.
And so it helped them give them ability to pay for school for their children.
Yeah.
And, some of them bought solar panels so they could have a light bulb in their house and things like that. So
yeah, I think we actually did we partner with you guys for the Advent calendar?
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
So we did that too, I think.
We've done those baskets as gifts.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool.
It's really cool
Yeah.
whenever we come back, whenever we see those things come in from overseas. So
Yeah.
that's awesome that you were a part of that.
Yeah, I loved it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's cool. Tell me about like going into these villages as a family.
So we would usually partner with another missionary and just ask like, "Hey, can we come hang out from like Friday to Monday?" And I'd just fly the airplane in with my family, would park it, and then we'd just spend the weekend with them. And the goal was to kind of just to better understand the lives of the missionaries and of the people they're serving. Because oftentimes they're out there and nobody really has a context for what their lives look like. It's just so different than what we experience here in America, that to have somebody when they're talking about, "Oh man, this guy's causing problems again," to be like, "Oh yeah, I remember him. How's things going?" To have somebody that can relate and understand helps encourage and keep them going. Because oftentimes they can be the only people in the village that speak English or that are, Westerner, and that gets old after 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time by yourself. It can feel very lonely. So to go in and just to be able to encourage them,
that's
and
cool.
But also to see and hear stories of what's happening and what God's doing. I mean, I remember we were in one village and I had just flown in part of a completed work of Revelation. The missionary had been doing a translation into Revelation, and so I got to sit down as they were reading it for the first time, and it's talking about Jesus presenting his bride to and how happy he was and how excited, and to just see them light up as they're reading this scripture for the first time was just, to me, a big deal and an encouragement. And again, not every flight we do is Bibles or missionaries. Sometimes it's just rice or building supplies, which is needed and necessary, but it can get lost sometimes that our main purpose out there is to make Jesus famous, to bring the gospel to them and help them understand.
Yeah.
So for me, that was always encouraging.
Yeah, I think it helped me because my day-to-day life was mostly home with the kids. And so to get out into a village to see the impact of what MAF was doing really helped me, especially on the hard days, to remember why we're here.
Yeah.
Why are we living in this hard, confusing place?
Yeah.
And I loved connecting with the women, watching my kids like blossom and run around with these kids in the village. Yeah. One year we decided it was American Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So we decided to bring Thanksgiving to the tribe. So we packed a box. We found a turkey.
A butterball turkey.
That
was,
You found that
it was at an Australian import store in a different town.
And it cost us
like just a ridiculous sum, but we thought, yeah, we'll do something a little special. Yeah.
So we brought Thanksgiving, and we also decided we wanted, this tribe at that point had the gospel. So they were growing as a body of believers. And so we're like, they have things to be thankful for too. We're going to bring Thanksgiving to them, even though it wasn't a cultural concept they had. So we brought 20, I want to say, live chickens. Well, they were alive when we left.
Yeah.
And they
didn't do so well on the airplane.
They didn't do so well on the airplane.
No.
They weren't gonna live very long after they got out of the airplane, so we just kind of expedited the process a little bit. Sure.
So when we arrived, we had chicken. We had like a chicken celebration with the tribal people, and they don't eat a lot of meat, and so it was a little
bit of a treat for them.
Yeah, big deal.
Yeah, so we did that, and then the next day we ate our turkey with the missionaries who lived there.
But how did you guys cook that turkey?
They had an oven.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
A propane oven. Yeah, the missionaries have a little bit of that.
That's awesome.
But some of it too is to just get to know the people in the village that we're serving as well, and just help communicate that we value and love them.
Yeah.
There was one village that's in the middle of the swamp, and the missionaries are there, and the people are just kind of like, why would you even want to live here? We don't particularly want to live here. And so to be able to go in and just spend time with them, sit in their house or their hut, and just be like, no, you are important, you're valued, you're loved. Just communicating that in a very tangible way. Those weekends really made a difference for us to do that.
They're not forgotten people.
Right.
And missionaries, really. So
that too.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever find yourselves in those villages and just like pause and just look around and just
all the time.
I can't believe that we're here. Like,
all
this
the
is
time.
So, like, these are National Geographic moments, you know, that you're living.
Yeah. Once I had found Starbucks Frappuccinos in town where we lived, which was not a common occurrence. And so I bought 2 for my friend and I, and we went into the village. We had taken a boat like up the river, and we're on this little rock island in the middle of the river drinking Frappuccinos. And I thought, in the history of the world, we might be the first people ever to drink a Frappuccino right here.
Those glass ones?
Yeah, the glass like cold coffee drinks. Yes. And yeah, there's definitely moments like that where you just think like, where am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, what are we doing? This is just so outside of our normal idea of what life is like.
Yes.
There's plenty of times I've stood in a village, even just landing and standing there and just recognizing like the person in front of me and myself, we have really nothing in common in terms of our life experience other than that we're currently standing at the same spot of earth. And so sometimes that's a bit like, whoa, it's amazing. The variety of humanity and life experience that happens here.
I loved watching the kids play because while like our kids and those kids have very little shared experience, kids are kids.
Kids are kids.
Like they'll run around and play even though they can't even talk to each other. They were playing volleyball together or they're like trading.
Well, remember Elias brought in a Nerf gun.
Yeah.
And he gave it to the kids and then the kids gave him his bow and arrow. So, he's running around trying to shoot that and they're trying to figure out a Nerf gun and what's going on there. But it is still the idea of play. And even without a common like verbal language, the language of play was still there. And so that was fun to see them interact. Because in a lot of ways too, as much as we have things, life experience is different, they're still just people, just like we're people. The same struggles, they might look slightly different, but it's the same struggle, same sins, same joys. Yeah. When a child's born, they're still excited about that, just like we are. And but it's fun to see your kids thrive in that environment as well.
And there is something really beautiful about the simplicity of kids, right? Like they just want to play.
Oh yeah.
And they don't need to know language to do that. Yeah. Right. You can communicate play very easily.
You can communicate a lot through a smile as well. So that means a lot.
That's really cool. That's great. Yeah. Okay. Well, you mentioned struggle and I kind of I'm going to shift a little bit. Because I think one of the interesting and unique aspects about you guys is that Nathan, you were like even before you went overseas, right? Like you were diagnosed with something.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So during my freshman year of college, I started developing symptoms of stomach pains, internal bleeding, that type of thing, and trying to figure it out. And it was the summer between my freshman and sophomore year where I went and had emergency surgery and was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So I was only 19 years old when I was diagnosed. So I was still in college, still trying to make my way in mission aviation and get started there.
Yeah.
And then it was a bit of a life change, a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah. Well, what were your emotions and your thoughts like when you got that initial diagnosis?
It was tough because when I had the surgery, they're like, hey, there's something a little off about your appendix, and we think there's some more there. We're not real sure. We're just going to go and explore. And I woke up with just a huge bandage on my stomach, and they're like, hey, we found something. And my first thought was like, man, what's this mean for the rest of my life? And then there's a part of me that's like, oh, I'm not going to let it change anything, and you're kind of warring against those two ideas. But I had a great surgeon that was just like, this doesn't have to limit anything. There may be some things you have to adapt or change, but you don't necessarily have to stop pursuing mission aviation. He was a nice Christian guy, went to our church. So he was like, if this is where the Lord's got you, or if this is where the path he's on, he wants you on, don't let this be a hurdle or something that stop you.
That's continue. Man, what a blessing to have a Christian doctor speak into that, because I can imagine if there was a doctor that didn't share or understand that perspective, they might just say like, you should not be even thinking about this much. Let's go out there.
When I was first diagnosed, they're like, you've got a pretty mild case, and so if you do diet and exercise, you should be able to manage a lot of it. And that turned out not to be true. And as we went along, it was like, no, you got a pretty severe case. And I changed doctors, I did have one that wasn't a Christian, and he's just like, man, what are you doing going overseas? This you really should not be doing this. And if the goal in life is to live as long as possible, his advice was spot on. I mean, we would be going over there taking on extra risk in an environment where I met gastroenterologists, GI docs, and they're like, I've never seen anybody with Crohn's. Can I talk to you? And so if I were to get sick or have problems, they're not really going to be the best place to help me. Right. Even getting the medication, I needed to fly about 5-6 hours to Jakarta, the big place, and there was one special hospital that would have it that I had to go to and get. And so, there's extra risk living in an environment like that we had to accept and try and manage.
Yeah.
So a doctor saying this might not be smart, it really probably wasn't smart.
Probably was good advice.
Right. Yeah. If you look at it from a worldly perspective. But if it's a perspective of like, no, what we're doing is important, it has value, and God says this is where I want you, then even if I were to have problems or to pass away in an environment like that, it's not a surprise to God, and he knows and has a plan for it.
Yeah. Okay, hard question.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Becky here. From a wife's perspective, how hearing Nathan, your husband, say these things, like, was there a rub there for you? Like, but I'm going to be here still. I'm going to be with the kids. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's a reality that has to be considered too, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was definitely something we spoke about. There was a time, well, there were multiple times, but one time in particular that he was very sick, and we were overseas, and he was in the hospital for 6 days, and we thought he was going to die. We did. Because the doctors there did not know what was wrong with him. It didn't even seem like Crohn's, so we didn't know what was wrong with him. And I was talking to my parents, okay, if Nathan dies, here's my plan. And so it was very real. But during that time period, the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was brought to me by several different people. And there's a point in their story where they're like preparing to go to the furnace, and they say, God is going to save us. But even if he doesn't, like, he's still faithful. I still will not bow the knee.
Right. Yeah.
And so in that time period, I thought, God is going to save Nathan. But even if he doesn't, he's still faithful. He's going to take care of me and the kids. Now, obviously, I didn't want that to happen. Yeah. I'm so glad it didn't happen, and he's still here. But it was a test of my faith. Like, is God going to be faithful to the kids and I if he dies here? And it was hard. It was really hard. And it was hard on my kids. It was hard on our team, but our team was awesome too. And really, really stepped up and helped us with whatever we needed during that time. Yeah. So.
And I love that you brought up that example in the Old Testament, right? Because that story is told in a way, and it should be, right, that like God saved them from this thing in this incredibly huge supernatural way that we don't hear about today, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that you emphasize there is but even if, like, those three words are key in that story, right? Like they didn't know what was going to happen.
No.
They had full confidence that God had the power to save them, but even if he didn't, like that's God's prerogative, and he's still faithful, right? And I love that you guys brought that up as a story that really helped you through something like that. And we're all very thankful that God spared you.
Oh, I am too. Very, very thankful, you know. But again, it's one of those things that's like, you know, if I'm going to die doing something, I would really want it to be bringing the gospel to people who haven't had the opportunity to hear.
Yeah.
You know, again, not that I was looking to die or anything, but I was ready to, because I believe that is something worth dying for.
It's a fine, interesting balance there.
Yeah,
right?
no, for sure. Life's a gift. I love life. And so I wasn't wanting to do that. We try and manage it as best as possible. But we know that it's always there. But even the job itself is quite risky. I mean, we had 3 different missionary pilot friends die in plane accidents while we were over there. I mean, so the job itself, I think Becky had to come to grips with that at some point too. That
that's a good point.
Day to day, I'm sending my husband out in an airplane. There's risk involved in that.
Yeah,
there's always an element of when he's gone flying. I didn't like live my life worrying that he was going to die, but there would be certain people, if they called me during the day, like who didn't typically call me, that I would think like my heart would skip a beat and think, why is he calling me?
Yeah,
did something happen? And it never was that, thankfully, but there's still that idea in the back of your head that he could go out there and die.
Yeah. Shannon, my wife Shannon actually even brought this up recently to me. She's like, yeah, whenever you leave, I sometimes think like if someone calls me, like that's a reality that might happen. Like I might get a call from MAF about something that happened while you were gone. I'm like, yeah, that's true. Like, but that's fine.
That's one of the things about living overseas that I think we found really great is that our dependency or our need for God is kind of always in our face, whether it is the job or my health or something like that. And sometimes when we come back to the States, it's very easy to forget that.
Sure.
Because it is like, oh, if I start having problems, I go to the doctor and they help. Or my drive into work is about the most risky thing I do. You know, which still we have to depend on God for.
Right.
We can go in an instant. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. It's just over in Indonesia, we were a lot more aware of that. Where here, it's easy to.
And Brock Larson, I think, in a previous episode, talked about that very thing, right? Like it's like you said, in your face
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Which we really learned to love and appreciate. I think that was something we liked most about living over there.
Well, thanks for talking about that.
Yeah.
Another unique thing I also wanted to bring up. I know we're like at the 43 mark, 43-minute mark, and I'm like, oh man, I know I'm going along, but like there's some things I do want to talk about. So the other thing too is that, I mean, you brought up your kids and everything, and they're both adopted.
They're both adopted.
Is that correct? So I kind of want to like touch kind of like on like the heart behind that, like what brought you guys to adoption?
Yeah, when we first got married, I mean, we knew we wanted to have kids. And at that point, we thought we want to have kids before we go overseas, because if I'm going to give birth somewhere, I'd rather do it here.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was our plan. And but it over time became clear that was not happening. I was not getting pregnant. We didn't know it at the time, but now we know that I have endometriosis. And so that's not a definite, like, you'll never have kids diagnosis, but it has been for me. And so it took a lot of years of grief, a lot of hard stuff that I had to walk through, especially with the Lord, because I would watch so many other people. We were in that time of life, you know, in your 20s where everybody's having kids.
Yeah.
And we weren't. And so I really had to wrestle with the Lord about that, because I so badly wanted kids. And I would see people who didn't so badly want kids who would have kids.
Yes.
And so it was hard. And then we moved to Indonesia, where a woman's value is so wrapped up in being a mom. And if you're not, it's very pitiable. And it's very also your fault as the woman. And so that was another thing we had to
that's
wrestle
hard.
through, is living in this culture where like my value was less because I was not a mom. But slowly over time, like God led us to adoption. And so we walked through that process, and now we have these two beautiful children.
But even then, we were overseas.
Right.
Yes.
And that's where I want to ask those questions. Like, what was that like?
When we started pursuing it, everybody's like, oh, you need a couple of years. Like, adoption is not a fast process.
Yeah.
And with MAF, our home assignment time was only 6 months. And so people were like, that's not enough. That's not enough time.
Yeah. And we felt like we wanted to adopt a newborn. And so that limited our options as to like, we couldn't do an overseas adoption because those children are typically older. Mm-hmm. And to adopt an Indonesian child was very difficult at the time for us, not being Indonesian. And so we asked MAF basically for permission to take an extended time off the field in order to adopt. And so that's what we did in 2012. We took time off, and we didn't know how long it would be, because you don't know with this process how long it'll be. But we came here to headquarters, and Nathan worked in the hangar, and we went through that whole process. And our placement for our first son was really fast. Once we finished the home study and turned everything in, we were chosen by his birth mom within 10 days of us being on the waiting list. It was very
fast. Dude, it was so fast, it was suspicious. I started thinking like, oh man, is this a scam? Like, are they just,
oh no.
Because it happened very, very fast.
That's uncannily fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. So she was still pregnant at the time. So it was 2 months later that he actually came to our home. But yeah. And then 4 years after that, we were starting to feel led again to adopt. And so at that point, we wanted to try to stay overseas.
We knew a little bit more.
We
knew a little bit more about how things were done.
Okay.
After having gone through it once.
Yeah. So we actually found a adoption agency that was willing to do the home study part in Indonesia. And so we were able to stay in our home in Indonesia during the home study and then the waiting process of while you're waiting for placement.
Someone came to your house still? Did they fly from here, or was someone in Indonesia?
No, it was someone in Indonesia, which is just a miracle story, because we emailed the agency and said, like, can we even do this?
Just inquiring.
Yeah.
Not even like we want to, just more, is this possible?
And they said, yes. In fact, we just certified a man in Papua to do the home study. And so email him, and we knew him.
Yeah.
It was someone we knew who was with Ethnos 360. And so we emailed him, and he said, yeah, I can come, but I have to come this weekend because we're leaving for China to pick up our daughter. And so within like a few days, we were starting this home inspection process. So he came to our house, and he only had to fly from Sentani to Nabire, and did the home inspection. And then we got going.
Yeah. We started it up. It was like, all right, Lord, they seem to be opening the doors. Let's keep going.
Yeah. And so we finished the home study process.
All the paperwork.
Yeah. And then for our daughter, we were on the waiting list for about 10 months. It was a little longer of a wait, which is probably more.
Yeah, it's more typical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that whole time we could wait in Indonesia.
Yeah.
So we were continuing to fly and minister and do that.
Yeah. And when we were chosen to be her parents, she was already born. And so it was different than our sons in that he hadn't been born yet, but she was. And so we had to we found out about her on a Sunday morning, and on Monday morning, we were getting on a plane to come to the U.S.
Whoa.
So it was quite the whirlwind.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Now they are 12 and 8, and we're just super thankful for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. No, I had to ask it because
I
love adoption. I think everyone should consider it, if not.
It's been kind of cool as we've related it to some of the tribal people as well. I remember one time we brought my son in, and one of the tribe people found out he was adopted, and he was like, no way, so was I. Like, my parents died and these people adopted me. And like, he made an automatic connection with my son because of that. And
that's
so
awesome.
It's always interesting to see how the Lord uses things like that in our lives to open up doors to make connections with other people.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Oh, thanks for sharing, guys. Love it. All right. Okay. So now I'm going to shift, because you guys are also borderline movie stars. So is
Pretty
that
close.
fair? Is that fair to say? Is that
As close as you can be without actually being is probably it. Yes.
Well, I will say so. For people who may not know, there was a documentary made about 4 years ago this month, actually 4 years ago, called Ends of the Earth, and it's centered around MAF, but kind of had like this message of how like missions is something that is important. It's what God and Jesus has commanded us to do. And here's this incredible context that you can see this in, but you can do this in any context. In the context that you're in, God's calling you to do that. So, but you guys were I don't want to say featured. Your lives were
we are in
shown.
it.
Yes. How about that? I'll just say you guys were in it. How about that?
We play a role in the documentary.
Yeah. And so, the first question I wanted to ask you guys is like, how was that for you guys to be even approached to do this and leading up to that?
I don't think we knew how big of a thing it was when we were asked. And it actually, he was asked initially.
So for me, I was asked, they just wanted me to go check out the airstrip. That was my role. That's as much as they had asked me to do initially. And I was kind of like, man, if it meant that I got to go to a new tribe, spend a night or two with them, interact with them, that was my payment to be a part of the documentary. All right, I'm willing to pay it. Yeah, just to be able to get into the village and the tribe again.
Yeah.
So we weren't expecting to be featured quite as heavily as we were, at least not initially.
Yeah, it kind of grew over time, I think. Something I appreciated about the documentary makers is they looked for the story that was being told. They didn't like try to force a story, like their preconceived idea.
Yeah.
They were like, here is the story as it unfolds. And so as that happened, our family became more of a prominent role in it.
You know, as it unfolded, as COVID hit, as there were some other things that just kind of threw a wrench into plans. They could kind of see where God was unfolding a different one. And so, you know, with Joyce's passing, with my crone, some of those storylines kind of connected. And with us being able to get in and open up an airstrip and bring evangelists to a new place, it just made for a very good, compelling story that explained our ministry and what God's doing over there in Papua.
It really did. I was I was asking you about like you guys about your Crohn's disease, because it does kind of segue a little bit into this and that whole idea of like sacrificing or paying some costs to spreading the word or telling people about Jesus, and things like the accident with Joyce Lynn, and bringing it back to even some of the early missionary pilots. And so that was pretty neat to kind of see how God kind of like directed this documentary to tell these stories and kind of weave it in this like really great way. And it was fun to like talk to you guys earlier about like, because like we were having a conversation before this interview, and Nathan, you were telling me like, we didn't quite realize just how much we were going to be in that.
Some of it was they had the film crew up in Wamena, and we were getting ready to go on a home assignment, so we just asked them, hey, would you make a furlough video for us? And so I think some of that footage was initially intended for our video, but ended up helping complete and tell some of the story there.
Well, it was pretty neat to see like on the big screen, like showing people what life is like out there, and like you know, I mean, Nathan, it's cool that you get to fly these cool airplanes and go to these villages and do the aviation part, but it really doesn't give you a glimpse of what life, like what living is like out there. And I think that was really what was key about Becky being there was showing her shop at the marketplace and
being on a motorcycle,
and all that
cooking
stuff.
dinner, making burgers, that type of thing, trying to do that.
And what was it? I think I remember you guys talking. You guys mentioned like the 3 Fs.
Yes.
Like, what was the 3 Fs?
So I always say the things you miss the most when you're overseas are friends, family, and food. And depending on how the day's going, that the order in which of importance that is can change. Because sometimes it's like, man, I miss a burger. That is the thing I miss the most. And other times it's like, you know, I really miss my family right now. But that order can change on day to day.
Speaking about the food, there was one time I was over in Sentani, and I think one of the missionaries was telling me like, I had to fly to Jakarta to help like a new missionary family fly to Sentani or something like that,
sure.
right? He's like, yeah, I got to Jakarta and I just waited in the airport, but the first thing I did was go to a Burger King.
Yeah.
He was
for
like,
sure.
it was so good.
We plan our vacations around where we want to eat.
Yeah.
So we'll go to Bali, which sounds so exotic and everything like that, but it's literally the first island off of our own. And it's the place we can go to get a steak, or something like that, or a taco, that isn't homemade. And we don't care about the beaches or the culture. No, it's the restaurants.
Right.
That's where we want to go. So sometimes you really do miss the food.
Yeah.
I remember crying over a McDonald's cheeseburger.
I know, right?
Awful.
We don't even eat
Right.
here.
No, absolutely.
I know.
Yeah,
but it's
it's like the best.
the
just reminds
food
you.
is a connection
It is.
to home. Right.
Right. And culture. And culture,
right.
what's familiar.
That's why you spend way too much money on a butterball turkey for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And so, anyway, I just thought it was just fun to hear you guys like, yeah, we did this thing. But man, we were like, when we saw that movie, we were like, wow, we're a part of this movie.
Yeah. When we heard people say, hey, you guys did a great job. I was like, oh, wait. How much of it actually features us?
We hadn't seen it yet.
Because we hadn't seen it. We were still over in Indonesia when it came out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys too. How did you guys even watch the movie?
Well, we had been asking it because it was, due to come out in the theater here, and we hadn't seen it yet. And they had shown it, I think, here at MAF. So we had a few people send us emails or whatever about it, but we still hadn't seen it. So we finally asked, like, can we have a copy of it?
Tim and Rebecca had seen it.
Yeah.
In the village in Mokondoma, they had seen a copy of it. So we finally asked.
Yeah, we asked if we could see it before it came out in the theater, because it's intimidating to think of yourself on a movie theater screen. Yeah. That's a big screen.
Yeah.
And thankfully we have never seen it that big, but we had plenty of friends and family that went. So we were really glad to have seen it before it came out.
Yeah, because some of it is like, there's time between when you're interviewed or you do something and it comes out.
Oh,
so
sure.
There are plenty of times where I was like, what did I say? I totally forgot. Did I sound smart? I really hope I sounded smart. But
you sounded smart.
It's all editing, right? I mean, like you cut it up and have multiple takes and put it over B-roll and everything looks great.
Sure.
It's all editing.
Sure.
So no, but it was interesting just to be a part of that and then see the reaction of family and friends as they got to see and understand a little bit better our ministry when there's some like visuals behind it besides just a storytelling.
Well, I was joking about the whole movie star celebrity status type thing, but like, have there been moments where it's like your family's like, hey, like, yeah, we saw you on the big screen or anything like that where someone may have seen
obviously
you.
we have proud parents, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But no, most of the time I either get people don't recognize me at all or they kind of can't quite place me. Like, have we met before type thing? Yeah. But I remember a time when I knew for sure that it wasn't going to be anything big for me when I was in Indonesia at a missionary guest house and I'm sitting across from another missionary and they're like, oh, you're with MAF? Yeah. We just saw this great documentary, and they go on to explain the documentary to me and even talking about the guy with Crohn's and the rotten gut. And I'm just sitting there like, we're in Indonesia in a context where you should recognize me, but you don't. And it's been recent. And I knew then that I would never get noticed or any fame off of something like this.
I was kind of secretly hoping he would get recognized because he would hate it and I would love it.
But there was
it never happened.
Times within MAF, we would come back and people would be like, have we met before?
So familiar.
And eventually you figure out, no, okay, you've seen the documentary. So my face is at least somewhat familiar in the back of your brain, but it's not memorable enough to actually place it anywhere. So yeah.
Well, maybe that's more incriminating on the movie itself that it's not memorable.
No, you don't want this to detract from the story, right? The story and what God's doing is important. This doesn't matter. So if I can be a wallflower and blend into the background, that's even
funny.
better.
That story about that missionary not recognizing you and describing the movie.
And then you're just sitting there like, what do I do with this? How do I extricate myself from this situation with grace and dignity for both of us, And so you just end up being like, they did a very good job with the movie.
Yeah. One day he's going to watch that documentary again and realize,
I may have met him. Yeah.
And explain.
And he missed his opportunity for an autograph. Yeah. I know.
He probably carried his DVD in his back pocket. He could have gotten it.
That's what I assume. Anybody who's seen it is carrying it.
That was your one moment where you could have pulled out your Sharpie that you've always carried on yourself to sign something.
That's right. That was my one chance. Oh man,
That's awesome.
yes. So
There was a moment in the documentary. I know, like, if for anyone who's not seen this movie, like, there's a lot of inside information here.
yes,
Just go see it. I'll tell you where to go see it. You should go see it.
Yeah.
But there was a moment where you were in that village in Puluk.
Yeah.
And you were addressing the people who live there, and the airstrip just needed a little bit more work.
Right.
And you were trying to encourage them, right? And you said, like, you guys are almost there. You just need to do a little bit more work, and I am looking forward to the day where I can fly here and I can bring missionaries here to speak the word. I would love to bring my family here to meet you. Did you guys ever get to go as a family to Puluk?
Yeah, that was a tough thing because they were like 98% of the way there, but just right where we touched down, it was sloped sideways, and I'm like, we can't do it. But I knew how much work it would take to fix it. So I mean, it's not something simple like, hey, yeah, spend a couple hours and it'll be fine. It's like, no, you got to bring in dirt and you got to pack it down, and so I was trying to figure out a way that as I'm communicating through the missionary, like, what do I say to be like, this is important, not just for you guys, but also like I see value in this airstrip being open. And so wanting to bring my family in and make that connection was huge.
Yeah. And you were able to do it.
We were able to do it.
Yeah. It was a few years later.
About 2 years later. About 2 years later.
Yeah.
We were flying back from Nabire. We were doing some work there, and we were able to stop in and spend a couple hours on the ground there with them, with my kids and with Becky. And you want to share with them about?
Yeah, they were at that point. Now the evangelist had gone in there and shared the gospel and had gone through the chronological teaching of the Bible, and so they wanted to show us their room where they were taught, and then they have these pictures that Ethnos uses that walks them through the chronology of the Bible, and so they were telling us the story that they had learned. And so
very proudly, that like they knew it in their language and they could repeat it back.
Yeah. So it was special. We they, gave our kids sweet potatoes, and I got to hold some babies, which I always enjoy. And, so it was really cool that we got to go back in there. And Liku's family, Liku, also from the documentary, his family was there.
Yeah, we were dropping in to be able to pull him out for a break. He'd been teaching through the book of Galatians and was just ready to go back and spend some time with his tribe, with his people. Yeah. So we were stopping in to pick him up.
Yeah. So we took Liku's family, his wife and kids, back on the plane with us to Mokondoma. So I had his little daughter sitting on my lap in the plane, which was very sweet.
That's cool.
So it was nice to be able to get back. It took a little longer than I had hoped, but it still was that fun connection to kind of fulfill that promise a little bit.
I think that's,
and that desire.
I think that's really meaningful. Hopefully it was like, I was going to say, hopefully it's meaningful to them.
I hope so too. But it especially was to me, and I think to our family, to be able to be like, we got in there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys are talking about how they are able to kind of recite these stories. So it sounds like the church there is growing, it's healthy, and do you have any idea of like what the update is now for them?
Yeah, it's
4 years later.
It's been a few years, and so they do have an established church. Liku and other evangelists have been just going through the Bible and doing talking and training, but it's been fun to hear some of the testimonies of the people there. There was one lady. Okay, so I got to back up a little bit for those that don't know. That village had seen their neighbors have the gospel come and the change that it had made. And so they desperately wanted it, so much so that they sent one of their elders out to a nearby village to learn about Jesus. But the problem was it was in a different language, in a language he didn't quite really understand. So when he came back to teach, he would still teach in that language that he didn't understand and that they didn't understand. And so there was one lady that was like, she said, I would go to church every Sunday and I would come in and I would hear the pastor speak and I would listen. And as soon as I walked out the door, it was gone. I would completely forget what was said because I didn't understand any of it all.
There's a Bible verse like that.
Exactly.
A parable from Jesus about that.
But that hunger was there. Yeah. And so she said now that like Liku and the evangelist had come in and shared with them in their heart language, she's like pointing at the pictures and she's like, I remember everything from the beginning, from the creation all the way to Jesus' death and resurrection. She's like, I remember it all because it's now in her language and in her heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so that the difference it makes between hearing it in a foreign language and in one that speaks to you is everything. I mean, even that pastor that went and heard, he was like, I didn't know what I was talking about. He's apologizing to people. He's like, I'm sorry, I was teaching you the wrong thing just because I didn't know. But now the gospel came in and he's like, I understand it. I know I'm going to heaven. He even said, I'm an old guy and God's kept me alive specifically so I could hear this message, because before, if I had died, I would have gone to hell. But now hearing this, I know I'm going to heaven. And just like God kept Simeon alive to see the baby Jesus, he kept me alive so that I could hear the gospel. So it's so cool just to see their hunger and their desire for the world and just how it's been received and accepted and the change it's made, because they've been desiring it for so long. And so much work and effort and just patience and waiting to see that come to fruition and the gospel take root has been absolutely amazing.
That's really cool.
The highlight of our 16 years over there, I think, for me was being a part of that, of opening the airstrip, being able to bring the evangelist in, and then seeing the change the gospel made in their lives. It was huge.
Kind of bringing it full circle, like it's a reminder, right? Like you were saying, when you like going into these villages, it's a reminder for those hard days.
Yeah,
absolutely.
People are coming to Christ because of the work that you guys are a part of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the team aspect of it as well, that the documentary does a good job, where it's not just the airplane. The airplane makes it possible, but it also is the missionaries that are put in the work and the evangelists that put in the work, and even the people, like we said, with our donors, our supporters, the people that pray for us, the churches behind us, the people here at headquarters that do the shipping or the benefits, like I was talking about before. Yeah. Like all of that has to happen in order for the evangelist to finally get there and be able to share the gospel. And so it's cool to see all this effort and this manpower and this work have an effect that is tangible, noticeable, and makes a difference in this life and the next.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
what
beautiful.
What a picture you just painted. Yeah. All the hands that
it's amazing. And it's all worth it for those 78 new believers. That
absolutely. So there was one story I think would be really neat, because it's kind of a behind the scenes a little bit of the making the documentary. Sorry, Becky, this is kind of like, I feel like we're just kind of geeking out about
we're going to set you aside for a moment.
Yeah, totally fine. But definitely interject if some of this is any of this stuff. But you were talking about not in this episode, but just like leading up to us filming, you were talking about how Liku became the person that like went into Puluk to talk. Just talk about that story.
Absolutely.
I think it does kind of show how God used the documentary as not just a visual medium, but like an actual tool to further the gospel.
When we were looking at opening up Puluk, the Puluk people really wanted it, but Mokondoma wasn't quite ready to send out evangelists. They just didn't have anybody. Most of their evangelists were already occupied at different locations. And so they didn't have anybody to go there. Then COVID kind of hit and everybody kind of migrated back to the village. But what happened was, as we were opening up that airstrip, in the documentary, I'm sitting there circling because there's a little cloud that's just in my way that's blocking me from coming in and landing. And what's happening is I'm just burning through any extra fuel I have. And I'm really watching that fuel gauge, making sure everything's safe and fine. And
because you can't land when you can't
with that blocking everything. It's not like here at some of the bigger airports where we have an instrument system that will guide us in and help us land perfectly.
Yeah.
It's the first landing at this brand new airstrip. I need to be able to see it well. I don't want to fly through a cloud and then all of a sudden have it appear in front of me.
Yeah.
So it's got to be just perfect. So I'm sitting there waiting, and to the left of the cloud and to the right of the cloud, it's just gorgeous. But right down the middle, just sitting there blocking me. Anyway, I burned through all my extra fuel and I'm able to land. But I tell Tim, like, I know you had a desire for me to do a couple of flights back to Mokondoma to take people and food and some of the gifts and things like that that Puluk wanted to send back. But I'm like, all I can do is take the people. And man, Tim and his evangelists were ecstatic about that. It's like a 3 or 4 day hike. It's hard. But hopping on my plane, 10 minutes, taking back, land, no problem. So we hop in. I bring them back to Mokondoma, and then I head home, and my part of the story is done.
Because the gifts can you can take those back later,
the gifts aren't as important, because it's nice that they wanted to send them, but really saving the people the time and effort to walk was what was wanted.
Yeah.
And so my part of the story was done, though. I went home and called it a day. But when Tim and Liku got back to Mokondoma, they started sharing with the people there in their village, like, hey, look, Puluk's ready to be opened. It's got the plane in there. We can get evangelists in when we've got some. It's good. So we'll just be praying that God's got a plan. And one of the village elders stood up and was like, that's awesome. Praise the Lord. But where are all the gifts? And Liku's like, oh, okay, well, here's what happened. The airplane couldn't bring them. So it was just people that came. And the guy was like, well, it's not really fair, because you got to go over and celebrate, and you got to eat some pig and have a great party.
That's true, because in the documentary, you guys are having a celebration.
They were super excited.
Yeah.
But this elder in Mokondoma was just like, but we didn't get to be a part of any of that, and you left everything behind. And Liku's getting a little frustrated, and he's like, yeah, but the most important thing is they're ready for the gospel to come, and that you should be excited about that. And the elder's like, well, if that's the most important thing, then you should go over there and tell them about it. And by this point, Liku's just kind of upset and frustrated. And he's just like, you know what? I will do that. And Tim, the missionary, is sitting back there like, Liku, hold on. I need you for translation. I need your help here in the village. You're supposed to do the training. What's going on? So later they talk, and Tim's like, Liku, you can't let him push you around like that. And he's like, I know. I responded in anger, but honestly, I really feel like God is wanting me to be the evangelist. He's wanting me to go. So it ended up being, instead of waiting a few years for them to have evangelists, it was just like a month and a half. And I was able to take Liku back into that village to be able to begin to share. So I always find it humorous that God took this little cloud that caused just enough of a delay, so I didn't have the fuel I needed to do more than one flight. So I left the stuff behind that this elder really wanted to have, so that he got angry enough to poke at Liku, so that Liku was like, no, I will be the one to take the gospel to those people. So we don't always know why there's delays or little problems, but they're not a problem for God. And he can take something as simple as that and make it, in his plan, exactly what he wants, and get the people who he wants, where he wants them.
Yeah. And I just thought that was such a fun story to hear, like all the behind the scenes stories that are happening that aren't told in the documentary.
Right. Yeah.
Also, if you watch that documentary and you see Liku in there, he's not the kind of guy that gets mad.
No.
So it's just funny to picture Liku getting egged on.
I know, right? Because he was so excited about, like, man, it's ready to go, and this is what God's been doing, and God just needed this other guy to poke him a bit. And
that's so great.
I get frustrated too. We all get frustrated. And even great men like Liku still, struggle on this side of heaven. So, but it wasn't but just a few weeks after that we got him in, and they were able to share.
That's so awesome. I love it. What a great story.
It's pretty cool how God can use whatever for his plans and purposes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're coming up on time, but I did want to ask you guys, one thing first. I guess there's two questions. One is is there anything else you guys want to talk about? But the second is what's next for you guys? So,
well, we've just transitioned to the U.S. after 16 years in Indonesia. So, Nathan now is working in the training department here at HQ. So he can talk more about that.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that we've always said to the Lord, point us towards our Nineveh and we'll go there. Just tell us where to go. And about 2 years ago, we kind of felt the Lord putting on our hearts that our time in Indonesia might be coming to an end. And that's honestly something that's pretty hard for us, because we loved our life over there. We loved the ministry that we were a part of.
Yeah. We weren't
wanting to leave. But we really both felt like the Lord was saying, no, I've got something else for you. And so right now it seems that that's in the flight training department here at headquarters in Nampa, that I will be training my replacements. And I go through some days that it's like, man, is this the right thing? Did we make the right call? And then I always think back to stories like we just shared about, this is not a surprise to God, and he's got a plan. And even though I don't know why that cloud's there or why he may have moved us back to the U.S., I can look at a situation like that one in Puluk and be like, no, God's got this.
Yeah.
I might not know what's going on. I might be ignorant of what's happening.
Yeah.
God's not. And so I can trust him to have my future in his hands and know better than me where I should be. And so as we move back, I'm learning that. It's easy to say, but putting some feet to that faith, and trusting that this is what he's got next for us, and that we can make an impact and still be a part of that global team that is reaching places like Puluk.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, global team, I think you're now training pilots that will go in all sorts of different programs all over the world, you know?
Right. I got a very Papua focused view of what MAF does. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in Lesotho or DRC or some of those other places that we serve. Yeah.
So, and your kids are now like entering the older kid stage. And so there's some of that, like raising kids in a U.S. context and at that age. Yeah. Has that transition been smooth, or there been some bumps in the road? What's that been like?
There's been some bumps. They've really done a lot better than I pictured them doing.
That's good. That's cool.
So yeah, I'm sure it's still going to be a process for several months, years, maybe, as we learn like how to live in the U.S. They've spent their whole lives overseas. And so as much as they are Americans, but they're not culturally American yet.
Yeah.
So it's a process, but we have to trust that like if God has called us here, that means this is right for our kids too. And so whatever that looks like, we're just going to step forward in faith. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's great seeing you guys more often than once every 3-4 years.
Yeah.
It's been
grandparents
cool.
Like it too. It's easier to have the grandkids around a little more frequently.
Yeah. So it's been neat, but thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
You know, having this go a little longer than I described it was going to be. But is one thing, it was actually great to hear about your guys' lives, like, and going almost an hour on that. But I was like, oh, I do need to talk about it.
There are a few things.
I got to talk about it. So, again, thanks again. Hope the coffee was delicious. Sorry, Nathan.
It was delicious.
We didn't have any, I don't know,
it's okay.
cold beverage.
Protein shake.
We could have done protein shake. We could all just pounded a protein shake right now. That would have been interesting.
Scooping powder in there. All good.
Oh, boy. Oh, man. Well, guys, I hope you all really enjoyed that conversation. If you have any thoughts or comments, you could definitely leave those in the section down below. Or you can go to maf.org/podcast to view more episodes. And you can always email us at podcast@maf.org. I always forget the email address.
Sure.
And then, of course, like we talked about this documentary. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on Amazon. It's called Ends of the Earth. It came out in 2021. We actually also partnered with the Wild Brothers. You probably know about the Wild Brothers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so just a real brief description of who they are. They were missionary kids, and their parents also were translations in Mokondoma with
that's
Tim.
Correct. Yep.
So they grew up in Mokondoma, totally into media production and stuff, and have created this incredible website where they curate, like, basically create and curate family friendly content. But anyway, we partnered with them, and they're like, yeah, we'll put Ends of the Earth on our platform too. So I'm not quite sure what the URL is. I probably should have looked that up before this episode. But just Google Wild Brothers TV, and you'll find them. And they have a 30-day free subscription right now if you wanted to do that and check out the documentary there, as well as the other stuff. They have some really. I mean, you talked about
amazing things.
Cool
like some of the stuff they even describe what like a village honai looks like inside and what it's built. And they just did. I don't know. They just crafted some really great stuff all the way when they were like children.
When they were young.
They started really young.
Yeah, and now they're like post-college.
And now it's really polished. The early stuff was you could tell, but it was still fascinating content because of where they were at and how they were able to connect it all back to God.
Yeah. Anyway, that was strangely turned into a weird plug for Wild Brothers. Cool. Well, you're welcome, Wild Brothers.
A worthy plug.
Oh man, it's so good. Okay. Anyway, you guys have a great rest of the month, and we'll see you next time.